Ruslan.
Ladies and gentlemen, Logan Paul, a YouTuber, fought Floyd Mayweather Jr. yesterday and went the distance. What a time to be alive where YouTubers are fighting arguably the greatest boxer alive. And I think this is an overall plus to boxing, in my opinion. And I'll explain why. But I think there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had here in terms of YouTubers or people with audience, people with influence, being able to maneuver in different spaces seamlessly. I don't think we quite understand what happened. This would be like me getting to play Michael Jordan in an exhibition game of one-on-one. Like, I am not a good basketball player, okay? But because, say, I have a couple million subscribers on YouTube, when I have a couple million subscribers on YouTube, I get to go play Michael Jordan in a one-on-one basketball game because of YouTube, because of being a creative in the space. This is insane that this happened. What's more insane to me is the fact that Logan Paul went the distance. Now, I don't think Logan Paul is necessarily a great boxer. However, he went 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. Here is my assessment. Now, I call this video the Great Finesse. A lot of people are like, oh, they just hugged it out. They just hugged it out. It wasn't really a fight. It wasn't really, oh, I didn't even pay for it and I feel like I got robbed. Listen. What? Those of you guys that paid for it. I didn't pay for it, by the way. I watched the highlights. But if you paid for it, if you got together at somebody's house and it was a night where maybe you guys did the fight night, you watched all the fights, you had a little community, regardless on how this went for you or how you watched it, or you just watched the highlights on social media and complained about it. One, we have to just factor in that this is very wild that a YouTuber from the middle of nowhere fights one of the greatest fighters of all time. 2, that people watched it and cared about it. 3, that he went the distance. And 4, how gracious Floyd Mayweather was in complimenting him, say he was a pretty good fighter. Now, some of you guys might think, well, they just hugged it out. There wasn't no knockouts. There wasn't no knockdowns. I mean, Floyd don't be finishing his fights like that anyway. But what we got to examine here, the real win here, is the entertainment value around this. You boxing purists who want to see the art and it's an art of finesse and this whole thing, right? You guys don't want to see that. Entertainment and people wanting to see stuff like this is how the sport can come back. Is how people can be interested in seeing the other fighters and they're stirring up some excitement. So what they're really doing is, yes, they did this for money, for sure. I mean, let's be honest, Floyd Mayweather probably needed a bag, right? Because we know his spending habits is pretty outlandish. I mean, a dude burns through money. So maybe he needed a bag. Maybe he just thought it was fun, whatever. Logan Paul was flat out like, I didn't think this could even happen. Like, I didn't even think this was a possibility. I didn't even think it's a possibility. So regardless of how you feel about this from a technical fight standpoint, I think what we have to understand is that both of these gentlemen understand how to stir up hype, how to leverage their platforms, how to get you interested and pull you into their ecosystem and do it at a place where they made a good amount of money off of this, but you also got to have some community around it. You also got to get with your friends and family and got to hate one of the other fighters, got to yell at the screen. You had to have a good night. You had to get, some of y'all even bet money on Floyd or bet money on Logan Paul or whatever. I think it was wild to bet money on Logan Paul in this situation. But the fact that we got to come together around this event, as much as it was entertainment than sport, it was entertainment primarily. This is a win-win-win, in my opinion. And now I don't remember how much the pay-per-view was, $50, $100. Okay, so some of y'all spend more than that on Starbucks in a weekend, if we're just gonna keep it a buck. So you got to come together with your friends and family. You got to have some barbecue. You get to talk some trash about who is or isn't a real boxer or whatever. $55 was the pay-per-view. That's not unreasonable. That's I think that's a very reasonable price. So what they're doing is they're leveraging entertainment. They're leveraging their audiences. They're leveraging conflict. They're leveraging how to sell something. They're making money off of it. We're watching. We're enjoying the process. Floyd Mayweather has the deck stacked against him. He's older on in his career. Logan Paul has nothing to lose. He's not even a real boxer. He goes the distance. It's a win-win-win, in my opinion. I haven't been that entertained by boxing in a very long time. But the point I want to drive home here is this. Logan Paul was afforded the opportunity to step in the ring and look like a pretty decent boxer. This wasn't a Conor McGregor situation where he was a UFC fighter who was already a professional fighter that then transitioned into boxing. No, this is a YouTuber, guys. This is a YouTuber who's repeatedly reinvented himself and reinvented himself and reinvented himself, has made himself uncancelable, and is fighting Floyd Mayweather. And I think we miss how impactful someone's influence can be when it comes to maneuvering and changing and doing different disciplines that they may be passionate about. Maybe boxing wasn't a passion for Logan Paul 5 years ago, but he slowly got into it and it became more and more of a passion for him. This is similar to me where we just saw J. Cole go overseas and play professional basketball for a few years. Now, do we think J. Cole would be a professional basketball player even overseas if he wasn't J. Cole? Probably not, right? Probably not. This is in the 90s. It was Master P who played, I think, one NBA preseason game for the Charlotte Hornets, I believe. Meaning this, once you build out your respective career, specifically if you have influence in an audience, whether as a musician, as a YouTuber, when you can drive attention to something that then gives you access. Now, that's not fair, by the way. This isn't a meritocracy. There are people that are way more qualified that should have fought Floyd. There are people that probably lost their shot to play overseas for that basketball team than J. Cole did, who were probably more talented than J. Cole. However, the fact that someone's influence, someone's attention, someone's ability to have an audience can drive value to something that folks would have otherwise maybe not paid attention to. I probably wouldn't have paid attention to some of these fights before. I probably wouldn't have known who some of these guys were. It is something that shows you what is possible when someone has their audience, when someone's built something that is big. Now, this is the most radical, over-the-top example, right? This is, again, Logan Paul fighting Floyd Mayweather Jr. is like me having a one-on-one game with Michael Jordan and going this is outlandish. But let's drive it down to the micro. Let's drive it down to the micro. If you are looking to build a t-shirt company, if you are looking to become an author, if you are looking to do different things in your respective career, how much more does having an audience change that? How much more does having a tribe of people who rock with you change the access you would get in what your career trajectory could be? And I'm not saying everybody's going to be Logan Paul. Again, I'm saying this is the most outlandish example of something that shouldn't have even happened, but it happened because of technology, because of YouTube, because of social media. I think it's good. Some of you guys may disagree with me, but my question would be, what could change if you had some different access to different audiences, different platforms? And I'm not saying that everybody needs to be a YouTuber or a TikToker or anything like that. I'm saying, hey, if you have a message, a product, maybe you should start doing something on the side to build it up over time. Okay, meaning that before I ever made a dime off of YouTube, I did YouTube for 4 years straight, uploading usually once or twice a week. And then in 2019, I started doing interviews and I started uploading 2 or 3 times a week. Then I went to every day, and then I went to multiple times a day, right? And it was something that I just did on the side because I know that being on YouTube would add value or add credibility to my career as an artist. And then before I knew it, I transitioned over and now I do YouTube full time. And then some days, maybe I'll jump back into a whole nother discipline. Maybe I'll put out a book. Maybe I'll be an author. Maybe I'll be a public speaker. So you guys see what I'm saying? So Logan Paul is a YouTuber who then transitioned over into boxing and is like, according to Floyd Mayweather, a good boxer. A good boxer. This wasn't possible 25 years ago. 25 years ago, 20 years ago, you have to pick one thing and devote your entire life and well-being to it. And if you wanted to be a fighter, you had to figure out how to sustain your life and work a job and train 10 hours a day. And there's guys that still do that. There's guys that work a job to sustain themselves and still go and train 10 hours a day because they want to be professional fighters. The conversations has shifted, right? The conversations has shifted. The opportunities are changing. The world is changing right before our very eyes. So I would seriously consider not to just jump in feet first and say, I'm going to do fill in the blank, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, but to say, hey, are you building something here on the side? Just a little bit, little by little, little by little, little by little, little by little. Oh, snap, I cracked 1,000 subscribers. Oh, snap, I cracked 1,000 TikTok followers. Oh, snap, I cracked 5,000, right? And then eventually you have the opportunity and the luxury to potentially jump and make that your full-time income or your part-time income with some other things on the side, and then eventually jump from that to something else that you really want to do, like, I don't know, music or being an author or selling a product, having a t-shirt company, having a business, whatever. So this is how my mind works. Granted, I'm on YouTube. Clearly, I'm going to be biased. I think it was really cool for Logan Paul to do that, but I just wanted to highlight this to you guys, let you guys know my thoughts about it, and share, like, hey, as much as we have to be humble in how we approach life, we also need to be self-aware enough to know that we, and by we, I primarily mean the folks who are watching this channel that are followers of Jesus, have been strategically placed in this time and era, right? So it's not about, and I'm really trying to drive this home for me. So I'm sharing something for me that I'm really learning in real time, okay? I usually don't do this. I share stuff that I've already learned, but this is something I'm learning in real time. It's not so much about being successful as it is about being faithful. It doesn't matter to me what numbers you have on your social media. It doesn't matter to me how many followers you have or the dollar amount in your bank account or how big your house is. What matters to me, and what I would say, according to Matthew 25, what matters to God is our heart, and have we been faithful with what we've been entrusted in this season? So if you want to build a business and you are a purist in avoiding social media because it's a distraction, but you claim you want to build a business, or you claim you have a message, or you claim you have a product, or you claim you have something important to say, but you're avoiding social media because it's a distraction, because it's worldly, because you're just too good for it, right? That's not being faithful to what God has positioned you to do in this season, potentially. You could have been born 100 years ago. You could have been born 200 years ago. You could have been born 50 years ago. Yet, you were born in this time, in this era, and so many people who claim to want to do something. They want to do something with God or for God. They want to start a business. They want to start a charity. They want to start a nonprofit. They want to put out some music. They have a movie they want to put out, a short script, a series, and they never take advantage of the season, the world season that we're in terms of technology, in terms of being able to do really good stuff right on your phone a lot of times. And they just, in my opinion, kind of squander it away. They kind of squander it away. So yeah, we need to consider all of these things. Where are we born? When are we born? What family are we born into? Do you have access to a phone? Do you have access to internet? Do you have access to just the basics of being able to get on these things? And if you have something important to say, if you have something genuinely important to say, and I think there's nothing more important than the good news about Jesus and you tying in your personal story. If you do, and you're being a purist about being on social media, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, am I being faithful? Am I being faithful with the opportunities that God has positioned me with? Now, granted, I'm not speaking in absolutes, right? I'm generally speaking. This channel is primarily millennials. I'm not speaking to the mother who just had a baby and the baby's a couple weeks old. Like that's not who I'm speaking to. I'm generally speaking to millennials. A lot of you guys aren't married. A lot of you guys don't have kids yet. And we're in this time, we're in this climate in history, unlike any time before in history. And we have these opportunities. And a lot of us say we want to do one thing, but when we look at our behaviors and how we act, it's not always congruent. Okay, it's not always congruent. And so hopefully this is making sense. That, guys, it's not about the numbers, it's not about the subscribers, it's not about the money, it's not about that. It is about being faithful. Are you faithful to what God has entrusted you with in this season? Are you faithful to what God has entrusted you with in this season? Not everybody's gonna be Logan Paul. Not everybody's gonna be J. Cole. Not everybody's gonna be a famous rapper. Not everybody's gonna be a YouTuber. But are you being faithful with what God has given you in this season? This is per Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. That's the references that I'm alluding to. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful. Let me know what you guys think.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Hey, thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. If you found it valuable, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. You can check out one of the other videos related to this that'll be over here. Now, I gotta tell you about a free training I have for anyone that is an entrepreneur, a creative, an artist, but maybe you are unsure on how to find your voice, how to find your niche. I have a free training in the description of this video. Check it out. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you on the next video.